Well, one of the first topics that you had in E280 was looking at the visual representation of data. And again, that was a powerful tool there. It's an extremely powerful tool here in all of these four methods that we look at in this course. So the first thing I'll teach you how to do is how to look at a scatter diagram. And you'll be using this through the first half of the course quite a bit. And all it is a visual assessment of the relationship between two variables. It's very quick, it's very powerful. It can tell us whether there's a negative relationship between those variables, whether there's a positive one, the kind of a little bit of the strength of that relationship, depending on how close those dots are to being a straight line, or whether they're just completely randomly scattered, in which case there's probably no relationship between the variables. Almost always we put the independent variable on the horizontal axis. The IV goes on the horizontal axis, or sometimes we call it the X variable. The dependent variable, the DV, or what we sometimes call the Y variable, goes on the vertical axis. So you should be able to see, I should have left you a scatter diagram of the relationship between the asking price of these homes in the data set and the number of square feet in the home. And you can see, while there's not a perfect correlation or a perfect relationship between these two variables, if there was, all the dots would lie in a straight line, and they don't, you can see that they're relatively concentrated in a upward trend. It looks like to me, and I think it should to you, that the larger the home is, described by the number of square feet in the home, the more expensive it is. And that seems to be very intuitive, I think, that you can build a 100 square foot home pretty inexpensively, but if you're talking about a 3,000 square foot home, it's going to be significantly more costly to build with materials and labor and all that to the 100 square foot home. And so you would expect this kind of a positive relationship, a positive visualization of this data. And that's what we're looking for. It starts to tell us, is our theory right? Well, I'd say economic theory would say yes. Larger the home, the more expensive it's going to be. So regression models are all about trying to represent phenomena, whatever it may be. And again, we're going to spend a lot of time predicting the asking price of a home. It does try to describe the relationship between the two variables using a mathematical model. And when we get to the output from simple and multiple regression, we'll make some interpretation of what does that mean. What do those numbers in our output mean? Because I can teach any history major, I can teach a high school student, probably a junior high, maybe even a grade school student, how to click the boxes in SPSS or how to run the regression in Excel, although doing such in Excel is a very clunky way of running a regression. It's the interpretation that makes you as a business student a much more valuable person to your organization. Because being able to click the right boxes is fine. But if you can't interpret what's there in front of you and use it to make a business decision, you're going to be less valuable than the person that could. And that's, to me, is the real value of this business education, and this class in particular, is it helps you to make an informed decision using statistics to make a better business decision, one that's more valuable for your company. So the regression model, some of it is, in the end, some of it we can determine, and we're probably never going to be able to predict or explain 100% of the variation in our dependent variable, but that's always our ideal, our aim. And then some of it will be unexplained, and that can be anywhere from, say, as much as 90% of our data may be unexplained, to, again, the idea would be to have none of it unexplained. But usually, at least in the marketing context, we're probably going to see anywhere from 60 to 90% of our dependent variable not being explained by our independent variable. That's just the way it is. In marketing, we try to predict your attitudes, and we can do a reasonable job of that. Usually between 20 and 40% of your attitude we can explain by asking you some questions. But when we try to predict something like your behavior, That's much more difficult, and there's many reasons why your attitude is not consistent with your behavior. Say you want to go buy Hunt's ketchup at the grocery store, and you go to Kroger or Marsh or wherever you go, and there's no Hunt's ketchup. Well, that's a problem. Your attitude may have been, we're going to buy Hunt's, but when you got to the store, your behavior, either you forgot to buy ketchup that week, which is probably something I would do, or the brand isn't available. So that's when we're trying to predict behavior, we predict about 10% of consumers' behavior in the marketing area.